Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hilary Marshall, Vice President of Stakeholder Relations and Communications at the Greater Toronto Airports Authority, and I'm pleased to call this meeting to order. Obviously, our meeting is taking place in quite a different format than we're used to this year, and we're pleased that the meeting could still take place as originally scheduled at this date and time. I hope you're all keeping safe and well during this unprecedented time we're living in. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which the airport sits is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We're thankful to be able to be welcome on these lands in friendship. We understand and appreciate their connection as original caretakers of this land and offer this acknowledgement respectfully and in appreciation for all Indigenous peoples who cared for and continue to care for the land. I would like to confirm that all requirements for public notice have been met, as well as other conditions for holding this meeting. We submitted a plan to Transport Canada to carry out this meeting online this year, and this plan was approved. We will be conducting today's meeting in English, but we were also happy to answer questions in French. Our agenda today includes remarks from the Chair of our Board of Directors, Doug Allingham, our President and Chief Executive Officer, Deborah Flint, and Ian Clark, our CFO and VP of Finance, after which I will open the floor to questions from the public. Because, of course, we can't take your questions in person this year, you will have the option to type in questions. On your screen, you will see an icon of a person raising their hand. Click this icon to pose your questions to us today. If there are any members of the media attending today, I'd ask that you identify yourself as a member of the media and which outlet you're from, and if you are indeed typing a question in today. Please take a look at the screen now to see which of the members of our executive team and board of directors are online and will be available to answer questions. The executive team and Doug Allingham will be available to answer your questions directly now, and we can also direct further questions to other board members. If you're looking for supporting materials, you can find a digital version of the 2019 annual report at the link that you used to get into this meeting at torontopearson.com/APM. The GTAA's 2019 financial statements are available online and were posted to torontopearson.com and to SEDAR on March 26, 2020. And with that, I'd now like to hand things over to Doug Allingham, Chair of our Board of Directors.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Hilary. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us this afternoon. The GTAA, like many other organizations, has never held a virtual annual meeting. But in the middle of a global pandemic, it's more important than ever that we stay connected to our stakeholders. Thank you for your patience as we adjust to this virtual platform. I hope it will be the only time that we are forced to meet in this manner. Our annual meeting usually focuses on Toronto Pearson's progress and accomplishments over the previous year. However, as we're currently responding to an unprecedented global health emergency, we're naturally more preoccupied with ensuring the safety of our staff and the traveling public, and with trying to understand what happens next. For example, we're all trying to deal with the following questions. When will the governments and health officials start lifting travel restrictions and reopen borders? What does the future hold for airlines, and how long will it take before they return to profitable operations? What does the new normal look like for the airline and travel industries? And what needs to change at our airport and in aviation in general to regain the confidence of the traveling public? At this point, there are no definitive answers to these critical questions, but one sign that we're moving in the right direction and overcoming the challenges that have been thrown at us is the extraordinary collaboration we're seeing across the Toronto Pearson community as we all come together to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak and set a path for recovery. The 400 organizations at our airport are working in concert to maintain and adapt essential operations, from critical cargo services to flights returning Canadians from around the globe. Across Pearson, management teams and employees are making things happen quickly and seamlessly, and building a foundation for what air travel will look like in a world transformed by COVID-19. When the scale of the pandemic became apparent, the GTAA's first priority was to ensure the health and well-being of passengers and airport employees, while engaging constantly with all of our business partners and stakeholders and keeping the broader public informed. Companies and organizations at Pearson, along with Transport Canada, the Public Health Agency of Canada, and our security and border control agencies, join forces to implement Government of Canada protocols, to reinforce safety measures, and to facilitate the largest repatriation of Canadians in our country's history. While it is not yet possible to fully assess the full impact of COVID-19, one thing is clear. In an interconnected world, a major airport like Toronto Pearson will have a key role to play in the recovery ahead, both within the aviation industry and in support of our regional, national, and global economies. The responsibility that comes with being Canada's gateway to the world have never been more evident. The importance of Pearson's role as the country's largest, most connected airport is well understood by the Government of Canada. And on behalf of the GTAA, I want to thank the government for moving so promptly to reduce our rent payments for 2020. This complements our own efforts to significantly reduce operating costs and capital expenditures as we work to mitigate revenue shortfalls from dramatically reduced aviation activity. We also appreciate our continuing dialogue with federal officials as we explore what else can be done to address the impact of COVID-19 on our airport, the entire aviation, travel, and tourism ecosystem, and on the many stakeholders who depend on us. When Pearson has gone from serving about 130,000 passengers a day to fewer than 5,000, when the number of carriers flying to and from our airport has dropped from nearly 70 to less than 10, it's clear that we need to explore further relief measures. These include, but may not be limited to, talking to our lenders about our current and future state to maintain our very strong credit rating, arranging more flexibility in the timing and funding of previously planned regulatory changes, and gaining additional relief on airport rent as we recognize that recovery in our sector may take 2 to 3 years or longer. At the same time, we're acutely aware that Toronto Pearson is part of that larger travel and hospitality ecosystem. And the only way we'll overcome this challenge is by helping others, including our partners, adjust as well. The search for solutions starts with digging deep into operational priorities with partners like Air Canada and WestJet, examining what it will take to restore business and personal travel to all parts of the globe as soon as we have the green light to do so. Our organization certainly has the expertise and experience, and just as important, the adaptability to embrace new operational realities that will help all Pearson stakeholders and transform every area of our operations. Global connectivity is a very complicated business. When I joined the GTAA board 2 years ago, I'd spent my career developing and delivering major infrastructure projects across Canada and around the world. But I was immediately struck by the sheer complexity of Toronto Pearson. It takes countless systems and processes seamlessly integrated to support passengers as they travel to, from, and between destinations worldwide. It also requires a massive, coordinated effort among the thousands of people who work at our airport. Pearson employees collaborate around the clock, often in very challenging environments, to ensure safe, consistent, reliable service and the best possible passenger experience. Their organizations work together to connect Canada with the world and welcome travelers to our country's doorstep. Equally vital are the partnerships we forge externally with local communities and all levels of government, with businesses that count on Pearson as a driver of growth, with Metrolinx and other agencies that manage surface transportation networks, and with the national and global organizations that work to advance secure, efficient, and sustainable air travel. Partnerships have always been critical to our success, and clearly they matter more now than ever. In looking at the way that Pearson partners, which by the way is the theme of our 2019 annual report, the board has identified two key areas of strategic priorities. The first is innovation. Coming into the COVID crisis, the GTAA has spent several years fostering a culture of creative collaboration and problem solving, especially through the smart use of technology. We're constantly adapting and rethinking the processes by which we manage the flow of people, aircraft, baggage, and cargo through Toronto Pearson. Many of our innovation efforts are focused on the passenger journey, whether outbound, inbound, or transferring between connecting flights. Working with our airlines and security and border control agencies, we look for ways to expedite check-in, screening, and customs and immigration while helping passengers enjoy a stress-free experience. This means investigating everything from improved passport scanning systems to new biometric technologies. And of course, we're constantly examining new strategies to improve safety for both passengers and all airport employees. This drive to stay innovative, solving problems with speed and agility, has been particularly important in recent weeks. As our business partners have responded to this unexpected crisis, we've moved quickly to find ways that we can help. We're working with our airlines, as well as retailers, restaurants, and other vendors operating in our terminals to understand their needs and discuss relief measures on a case-by-case basis. We're also looking at what facilities we can modify or additional infrastructure we might put in place to support our carriers. For example, we've reconfigured our airfield to offer Air Canada, WestJet, and other airlines parking for idle aircraft at deferred rates. At the same time, we expect that cargo, which was already growing significantly at Pearson, will play an important role during the recovery ahead as companies rethink supply chains and ship more products by air to avoid potential disruptions and reach markets faster. We're working with cargo carriers on logistic solutions to move goods more efficiently. As an example of innovation in action, Air Canada has been converting some passenger aircraft to carry more cargo. And we've assisted by providing baggage moving equipment that can be adapted for loading freight. We're even looking at building additional temporary cargo processing facilities to handle this traffic more efficiently. Let me add how inspiring it's been to see cargo carriers, freight forwarders, and other logistics companies working through this crisis to deliver personal protective equipment and other critical supplies to healthcare workers on the front lines. The second strategic priority we've identified cuts through every area of Pearson's operations: our efforts to advance sustainability. While the pandemic has understandably eclipsed other issues in recent weeks, there's another pressing concern that won't stay in the background for long. Canadians, like others around the world, have become increasingly concerned about climate change. As a leader in the aviation sector, Toronto Pearson has been exploring what more can we do about the impacts of air travel in our own operations and through our collaborations with our business partners and communities around the airport. To guide these efforts, the board has asked the GTAA executive team to prepare a comprehensive sustainability plan. Building on our efforts to date, many of which you'll find detailed in our annual report, the plan will map out what more we can do to support the global commitment to reducing our collective carbon footprint. We consider environmental, social, and governance factors in every aspect of the GTAA's business activities and decision-making. Applying this lens will be all the more relevant going forward as we rebalance the relationship between safety, efficiency, and social responsibility. As Toronto Pearson continues evolving to serve a dramatically changing world, our strategy must lead to a more sustainable facility. Pursuing these innovation and sustainability goals, not to mention preparing for what comes next in our industry, requires us to collaborate closely within the GTA and across the wider Pearson community. Whether we're developing original solutions to operate in this new world or adapting models from other leading airports, everyone shares the same goal, and that is to help people travel smoothly and safely through all of our terminals. For our airlines, delivering a positive, health-sensitive Toronto Pearson experience translates into greater passenger satisfaction and increased loyalty. From the passenger's perspective, the sooner they can get through check-in and screening, feeling confident in the process and able to maintain a safe distance from other passengers, the better. And as we rebuild passenger confidence, we'll also rebuild revenue that can be invested in further enhancing our facilities. This focus on continuing improvement is not something we'll have to set aside as we work with our partners on recovery. In fact, it will be more important than ever to secure Toronto Pearson's financial sustainability. In doing so, we're building on a solid foundation, which is a testament to our very capable executive team led by President and CEO Howard Eng from 2012 until earlier this year. Thanks to their efforts, our region and all of Canada are more connected to the world. And as they set new standards for operational excellence, they've also taken Pearson to the top of the global rankings for quality service. At the same time, Howard and his team have extended connectivity into the surrounding region. They've championed a vision for better transit service to the airport, and they've brought together providers of aviation services across the region by establishing the Southern Ontario Airport Network. Howard's record of success has earned him the trust and respect of our diverse stakeholders and the admiration of his industry peers. So when he informed the board that he intended to retire in 2020, we knew that finding a worthy successor would not be easy. Over the course of nearly a year, the search committee met with dozens of internal and external candidates representing the best, the committee met with dozens of internal and external candidates representing the best and brightest among global airport executives. And this past November, we were very pleased to select a new leader whose impressive credentials and track record matched the high standards we had set. As of February 2020, the GTAA's president and CEO is Deborah Flint, an internationally recognized airport executive who has worked in the aviation and transportation sector for nearly 25 years. Most recently, Deborah was the CEO of Los Angeles World Airports, whose flagship, LAX, is the world's fourth busiest airport, serving more than 88 million passengers last year. As CEO, Deborah oversaw a multi-billion-dollar modernization program that represents the largest public works project in the history of Los Angeles. She knows firsthand what is required to guide a major airport through a period of significant transformation. That experience is very evident in the way that Deborah has led the team through the early days of COVID-19, reaching out to employers and workers across the airport, as well as elected officials, union representatives, and many other stakeholders, reassuring them that Toronto Pearson is here as a vital part of Canada's infrastructure and a trusted partner. This may not be quite what she envisioned in taking on her new role, but it's clear that she's exceptionally well equipped for the job. Deborah has a wealth of experience in advancing all of the key priorities of a global hub, including maintaining safety, fostering sustainability, integrating transit, and delivering a high-quality passenger experience. Equally important, she appreciates the vital need to build effective partnerships with government, business, and communities. And she's also Canadian, so we're very happy to welcome her home. In closing, on behalf of the board, I'd like to express our gratitude to my predecessor as chair, David Wilson, who completed his term in May 2019. During his 4 years in this role, David helped to evolve and strengthen the board, attracting diverse members with a broader range of expertise. He also leveraged his deep understanding of corporate governance to build a solid foundation for the future. He has also provided me with sage guidance and support over the last year. As David steps down today from the board after fulfilling his 9-year term, we thank him for his service and wish him all of the best. Today, we also welcome a new member to the board. Don Kennedy brings a wealth of experience as a senior executive in the logistics and freight forwarding industry, and earlier as co-founder of Canada 3000, once the country's second largest passenger airline. Don's expertise in cargo operations will be especially valuable as this dimension of Toronto Pearson continues to grow. I'd also like to express my appreciation to the other members of the board for your steadfast commitment and support over the last year, and especially during this recent period of unique challenges. Lastly, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the many stakeholders whose support is critical to Pearson's success. First, our 67 airlines, Air Canada and WestJet foremost amongst them. NAV Canada, which is responsible for all air traffic control. The Canadian Border Services Agency. U.S. Customs and Border Protection. CATSA, the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority. Peel Regional Police. And as I've said, the nearly 400 organizations, large and small, that make up this dynamic, collaborative Pearson community. We also have strong partnerships with all levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal, including the mayors and council members of Brampton, Mississauga, and Toronto. And to the millions of passengers who travel through our airport and the thousands of community members who engage with us, thank you for sharing your insights and perspectives. You help us listen carefully and balance expectations among the various constituents that we serve. Lastly, our heartfelt thanks to the dedicated employees of the GTAA and to the larger Pearson community who work together each day to keep our airport safe, secure, efficiently run, and welcoming to all travelers. Together, we'll do what's needed to restore connectivity and confidence in a post-pandemic world. We'll work with the global aviation industry to reinforce and elevate protective standards as passengers resume flying. We'll support our airlines and other travel and tourism partners as we adjust to our day-to-day practices. We adjust our day-to-day practices and longer-term strategies to the new normal. And we'll continue to improve and enhance one of the world's great airports. Innovative, sustainable, and driven by the power of partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I'd now like to call upon our new President and CEO, Deborah Flint. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Doug, for the generous introduction. It is such a privilege to be joining the leadership team of one of the world's most admired airports, and it is very good to be back home in Canada. When I took on my new role in early February, I looked forward to this annual meeting as one of my first opportunities to engage with the GTAA's wider community of stakeholders. And since then, of course, the world has been transformed in ways that none of us could have imagined just a mere 3 months ago. The COVID-19 pandemic is having an unprecedented impact, not only, of course, on public health, but on social and economic well-being across the world. We're learning more about that impact every day, sometimes hour by hour, but the full extent of the crisis and its longer-term consequences remain clouded still by uncertainty. If we could somehow shift this meeting back to the day before the outbreak became global, I would, of course, be reviewing the GTAA's achievements of the last fiscal year, highlighting incredible successes and measures of progress, and looking at what comes next for Toronto Pearson as we pursue strategic goals. But of course, the pandemic has changed everything. The sharp reduction in air travel has had a significant impact on airlines and all across the aviation industry. The disruption to connectivity further challenges an already hard-hit global economy. And right here in our region, that means lost jobs, reduced productivity, and missed or deferred opportunities. For Toronto Pearson, the steep decline in passenger traffic, where we are currently at about 4% of our usual volume, translates into lower aeronautical, commercial revenues, as well as lower airport improvement fees. We've taken steps to address these financial impacts, reducing our planned 2020 operating costs, capital spending, even closing parts of our facilities. At the same time, the steps we've taken to protect the health of our passengers and employees will also help to restore confidence in air travel as flights resume. Indicators suggest that the travel and tourism sector will be amongst the slowest to recover. This is where our ongoing dialogue with the Government of Canada is so critical. I want to echo Doug's gratitude to the government because the reduction in Pearson's 2020 ground lease payments are very significant and important to us. But we also hope to see and need to see similar results for other short-term relief measures that we have proposed. Across the industry, there are initiatives that are underway that will accelerate the recovery of a sector that supports hundreds of thousands of jobs and contributes billions of dollars to Canada's GDP. Our proposals are designed to stabilize and rebuild the entire aviation, travel, and tourism ecosystem. And in particular, we've stressed the need to invest in enhanced airport facilities, both during the pandemic and for a post-COVID pandemic environment. There is no better time than now to invest in modernizing Canada's borders, to reflect a new public health reality, and also to embrace technologies that will make international travel safer and more attractive as people venture back out into and across the world. Specifically at Pearson, we need to fast-track the deployment of biometrics, e-gates, CT scanners, and other proven solutions that will enhance passenger safety, all while improving passenger flow. As an added benefit, these investments will maximize the value of our existing assets. That said, we're also asking for the federal government support on shovel-ready and shovel-worthy infrastructure projects designed to accommodate the new realities of physical distancing and address passengers' concerns over congestion in our terminals. As we look for ways to offer more to our passengers, we've proposed that Canada join more than 60 other countries that are allowing duty-free shopping in arrivals areas. This has been a proven source of employment and enhanced revenue for both airports and governments in those countries. Now is the time to drive forward with a shared sense of urgency as we start doing the work today that will recreate our future. When the time comes where flight restrictions begin to be lifted, the previous flow of passengers we know will not return overnight. As travelers resume business trips, holidays, and visits with family or friends, they'll want to feel reassured that the most advanced standards are in place to protect their health and safety. Indeed, Toronto Pearson will be amongst the leaders in establishing global standards and practices. In fact, we're already in motion, in deploying solutions, testing and modeling, preparing and driving for this changed world. As the COVID-19 outbreak spread and was declared a pandemic, we were already acting quickly as an organization that's committed to our passengers and our employees. With guidance from professionals, we implemented and advocated for enhanced safety measures and public health protocols. We have adapted swiftly to regulatory changes in areas such as security and border control, radically adjusting while ensuring smooth operations for our airlines and other partners, and even more importantly, maintaining the best possible experience for our passengers under the circumstances. Our agility will help fuel the broader economic recovery in Southern Ontario and across Canada. We know that restored connectivity means more people will be back at work, more goods and services delivered, and more deals struck and alliances forged, and ultimately more investment in offices, manufacturing plants, logistics hubs, and centers of innovation. What gives us the confidence to arrive to that in our capabilities is that we adapt to this new world. And Pearson has a legacy of rigorous planning and vigilance, and a legacy of demonstrating our ability to execute. From frequent emergency exercises to multi-year risk modeling, we have been and we are passionate about safety and preparedness. Our organization is driven by continuous improvement. Having learned a great deal during the SARS and the H1N1 outbreaks, we already had a robust pandemic response plan in place when COVID-19 was declared. And as a measure of our serious commitment and high expectations, we have been recognized by the World Health Organization as part of its review of pandemic response plans, along with many of our partners, as having a gold level standard of preparedness. Proven resilience and the flexibility to adjust to the unexpected. These are what strengthen Pearson's ability to navigate, whether it's through extreme winter events, through traumatic disruptions like 9/11, and through economic crises like the Great Recession of 2008. And it gives us the confidence that we will adapt and thrive once again on the other side of this current challenge, especially when we have so many others working alongside us. The annual report that was just posted online is titled Pearson Partners. It showcases the many collaborations that make our airport a global leader in passenger experience and operational excellence. And although this partnership theme was in development months ago, it is even more fitting and appropriate today. The partnerships that drive our success will be critical as we navigate the immediate challenge of the pandemic and refocus our efforts on Pearson's larger purpose, meeting the needs of our region, Canada, and the world. Before looking at some of those collaborations in more detail, I'd like to share a few perspectives from key Pearson partners. We have captured them in a series of videos integrated into our online report. Understandably, the hope and aspiration conveyed in this video message was captured long before the impacts of COVID were felt globally. And yet each and every Pearson partner shares our desire to collaborate and face challenges head on. Together, we are truly stronger. Here's a video showing their various points of view. Many people will say that airports are like small cities or big cities even. To me, that is absolutely true, but airports are even more special than that. I say that they are the best team sport that there is. Running great airports means that you're bringing an incredible number of people together, all doing their part, and we win by connecting the world.
Not only do 50 million people come through Toronto Pearson each and every year, but the airport moves people towards growth, prosperity, economic development, employment, and helps our region thrive.
At the Ministry of Transportation, we value our partners, our stakeholders, our relationships with other levels of government, and we've engaged with Pearson many occasions. They are at the table with us because this is one of the largest employment zones in the province, and we want to make sure that people can get to work.
In working with Pearson, we not only have to collaborate on a tactical, operational level, but we also have to think about what we're doing with the airspace up and around Pearson Airport and the impact to what that may have on the surrounding communities.
Pearson International Airport has been a great partner for us in advancing our common interest, making sure that Canada remains competitive, our air industry sector remains competitive, that tourism flourishes, and that our economy is supported.
One of the innovative things about the Workforce Study was it really was a collaborative project between Toronto Pearson and the Airport Workers Council. Now, unions and employers don't always agree, but there are times when we do have common goals, and the study showed the power of collaboration.
Partnerships are the lifeline of an organization such as ours. The partnership that we have with Project Propeller, why it is very important not only to us but with the people that we serve, is Pearson may have been for many of them the first place they landed when they came to Canada.
The City of Mississauga and Toronto Pearson have an aligned and shared goal around the importance of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions to minimize the impact of a changing climate.
One of the great advantages of being engaged with Toronto Pearson and Partners in Project Green is the ability to begin the dialogue towards a circular economy. And one of the central features of that is reduction and elimination of waste from our businesses, from our communities, from society at large.
It takes partnership to create those opportunities for innovation. I look forward to continuing and to doing more. What a great reflection of our partners. And even in time of crisis, or especially in a time of crisis, we're proud to be able to count on the mutual support and shared strength that will keep Toronto Pearson and our region moving forward. Our most significant business partnerships are with the dozens of airlines that fly in and out of Pearson, starting, of course, with our largest carriers, Air Canada and WestJet. Partners where we collaborate on everything from the development of new routes to improved baggage systems. Together, we support connecting passengers across Canada and around the world who increasingly see Pearson as an ideal gateway to North America, which is why in 2019, we were once again ranked number 2 on the continent for international connectivity. Our two major airline partners have long worked with us on enhancement to our terminals, on new service offerings, on all we do to deliver a better airport experience. And as we restore confidence in air travel, we'll be collaborating and reimagining every step of the journey for both passengers and airport workers. Many options that we have implemented include increased cleaning and sanitation throughout the terminals, particularly in washrooms and other high traffic areas, disinfection of baggage carts, escalator railings, elevator panels, wheelchairs, and security and customs checkpoints, physical distance signage and floor markings to ensure and encourage prevention of overcrowding, removing or blocking seating in lounges and at food and beverage outlets, alternating the availability of check-in counters, kiosks, and baggage drop-offs, again, avoiding congestion, metering inbound passengers to ease traffic in customs hall, updating the queuing procedures and processes across ground transportation, and encouraging passengers to use online check-in and electronic declaration apps when possible. And throughout all of these initiatives and so many more to come, maintaining a steady flow of communications to engage, educate, and keep passengers informed. As Doug mentioned, we are continuing to address our security and border control issues, exploring new processes and technology solutions together with our agencies. Working with the management teams at Canada Border Services Agency and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, we're pursuing ideas and innovations that will ensure a travel experience that supports passengers' needs during the pandemic and will continue to meet their needs and expectations thereafter. We're analyzing and forecasting how travel patterns will change between Pearson and the hundreds of airports we connect with around the world. We expect to see domestic traffic resume first, followed by a gradual resumption of international flights. City pairs and corridors will open under highly coordinated strategies, and we anticipate further growth in cargo market as our hub serves a changing global marketplace. All of this depends on expanding partnerships. We've been working with Air Canada, WestJet, NAV Canada, and other stakeholders and airlines on a tool called collaborative decision-making. By sharing data in real time, we're able to better integrate and rapidly adjust our operations. This translates into smoother, more efficient travel throughout our airport and across national and global network and skies. With better integration of data and processes, we facilitate carriers' ability to deliver the consistent, reliable service that passengers count on. And because aircraft spend less time circling in the air or idling on the ground, we also reduce fuel consumption and carbon emissions. This is another key benefit and requirement of partnerships. Together, we advance all of the dimensions of sustainability: environmental, social, and economic. For several years, the GTAA has been exploring solutions to extend connectivity across our entire region through enhanced ground transportation networks. We work closely with the federal, provincial, and municipal governments, as well as Metrolinx and other transportation agencies and various stakeholder groups. While the economic impacts of COVID-19 will require all of us to revisit how much and how quickly we can invest in this area, the creation of a more efficient and sustainable regional transit network remains one of our long-term strategic priorities. Not just to ensure better access to Toronto Pearson, but to unclog roads and connect more people to more opportunities, particularly in the airport employment zone, which supports over 300,000 jobs. During the past year, we took a closer look at employment within the Pearson community by conducting the first ever workforce study by a Canadian airport. We have gained new insights into the thousands of people who work here, beginning with their sheer diversity in terms of age, gender, education, and other factors. While Pearson workers shared some of their frustrations, such as the need for better transit options, they were generally optimistic about working in an environment that they see as stimulating and filled with opportunities. But we know once again that today, COVID-19 and its fallout has changed everything. From the onset of the pandemic, we've been consulting regularly with employee groups and employers across Pearson. Last week, we met with the Toronto Airport Workers Council, our partners on the workforce study, just one of many joint initiatives over the past 8 years. We reaffirmed our commitment to working together to ensure the continued health and safety of those still working at Pearson and to tackle the longer-term recovery challenges facing both workers and employers. Coordinating our efforts within the existing Toronto Pearson Worker Safety Forum, we're looking at further health and safety measures that build on the robust practices already in place. For example, we're piloting the use of plexiglass barriers at counters and workstations where airport employees interact with each other and the public. We're also working with employers, airport partners, and health agencies to introduce a regular voluntary report on the incidence of COVID-19 at Toronto Pearson. We're jointly developing an online resource center where all workers affected by the pandemic will find job search and skills development support, along with a portal where employers and job seekers can connect as Pearson's workforce needs begin to grow once again. We're continuing our efforts to promote better public transit connections to the airport, encouraging all workers to commute via transit where possible. And underlying all of this, we're maintaining clear, open communications, including regular meetings between the GTAA and the Airport Workers Council. As we consider everything from terminal modifications to new commercial opportunities, Toronto Pearson's labor groups will be part of the conversation. Together, we're committed to ensuring that our airport, our workforce, and our entire industry recover as quickly as possible and emerge from this crisis stronger than ever. Right now, our top priority is to get everyone who's been sidelined by the pandemic back to work and once again supporting themselves and the people who depend on them. But as we regain momentum, the workforce study will guide us in helping all employees realize their full potential, thanks to the partnerships we've built with our unions and employers. And as we look for ways to reactivate and better deploy the wealth of talent at Pearson, it's part of a broader commitment to helping the underemployed, people whose education or skills exceed what's required in their current jobs, which is a problem that extends beyond our airport into neighboring communities. It's why in 2019, we directed 1% of net revenue to our community investment program, the Propeller Project. By year end, we'd committed $1 million in funding to not-for-profits in Toronto, Mississauga, and Brampton that help underemployed people pursue fulfilling careers and contribute to overall economic vitality. This is what a robust, world-class airport can do. We're in business not just to connect Canada to the world, but to create connections right here that fuel prosperity, resilience, and sustainable growth. And in the coming months and years, that's going to matter more than ever. Airports are unique. We adapt and execute daily, and at the same time, we plan for years and decades ahead while prudently managing a wide range of complex risks. In the case of Toronto Pearson, this focus on the long term has resulted in a solid record of operational excellence, exceptional service. We were ranked #1 in the latest annual Airport Service Quality Survey for the 3rd year in a row amongst North American airports serving more than 40 million passengers. With the 50 million passengers that came through Pearson in 2019, we know that we will reach that milestone once again, though even last year, traffic growth was moderate at about 2% compared to an average of 6% for the previous half-dozen years during a boom economy. At this point, the pandemic has eclipsed much, but 6 months ago, there was already a great deal of uncertainty in the economic outlook, from geopolitical tensions and trade negotiations that were unpredictable, and specific challenges in the aviation sector. But those moderating factors simply underline a crucial point about growth. Far more important than our total passenger traffic is the value that we deliver to people traveling through our terminals. At Pearson, as when we welcomed nearly 1 million additional passengers last year, we also created a more engaging airport experience for all, expanding and enhancing retail, dining, and other services. A full recovery as we look ahead, we know will take time, years, not months. And while we are driving forward on all fronts, there are many unknown issues we may still face with regard to public health practices, economic measures, regulatory change, border and security controls, and the adoption of new technologies and expectations of air travelers. We will be leading, learning, and adapting in the days ahead, but that's what we've always done in our industry, and especially at this airport. As a vital part of Canada's infrastructure, Toronto Pearson is built for endurance and longevity. Our strategies are designed to keep us nimble and responsive while delivering the highest standards of safety. Moving forward, we're committed to maintaining a best-in-class passenger experience, finding the right balance between health measures, intelligent use of technology, and solid support for our air carriers as they rebuild capacity and reconnect to the world. Because we know the world, however transformed, is waiting to connect with us, and recovery of air travel globally will stimulate the local recovery of jobs, prosperity, and economic growth. In closing, I'd like to reiterate my thanks to Doug Allingham, the entire board of directors who have provided excellence in governance along with valuable guidance and insight in these first important few months. I welcome and know I can count on their continued support and strategic counsel. I'd like to thank warmly my predecessor, Howard Eng, whose 8-year legacy created such a solid foundation for the future. I am grateful for Howard, the advice that he has shared across the years in the industry and during the transition, and I know our achievements going forward will be built on all that he has done to elevate Toronto Pearson. My thanks as well to our executive team, who bring a wealth of talent and experience to delivering on Pearson's strategic priorities. And thank you to all of the employees of the GTAA, the people who put these priorities into action day in and day out, and also the broader community of Pearson employees across our airport footprint, whose skill, energy, and commitment are what make this one of the world's top-ranked airports. They demonstrate every day that we are Pearson strong and that our future will be bright again. My heartfelt thanks to all of our stakeholders, our community members, our business people, our leaders of not-for-profits, the representatives throughout all of government, who are guiding and helping and driving us all to pursue a bold vision of Toronto Pearson, guided by the shared values and a common purpose. It is in this spirit of partnership that we will tackle the consequences of a crisis that is unlike any other, while staying focused on maintaining stewardship and delivering value. We will remain inspired and we will remain committed. We will persevere and we will solve complex problems. We will care for those who depend on us, and we will emerge stronger to create the next great chapter in Toronto Pearson's story. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Excellent words. Now I'd like to turn it to Ian Clark, our CFO, and the last speaker for today before we open up for questions. Ian.
Thank you, Hillary. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In 2019, Toronto Pearson continued on its journey to becoming a mega hub airport that serves regional and national aviation demand while focusing on operational excellence. This was evident in our improved customer service, flow in our terminals, and most importantly, by our being named Best Large Airport in North America once again for 2019. Our financial efforts were focused on financial sustainability, cash flow management, investments to meet capacity and improve flow, continued net income growth, and maturing our enterprise risk management program. In 2019, we continue to make significant inroads on these goals. 2019 key highlights. We saw a consolidated adjusted net income of $140 million, which was up $26 million or 23% from the previous year. For the third year in a row, we were the best large airport in North America, delivering on our promise of improved passenger service. To support future needs, we completed a large capital investment program of $429 million. We focused on improving our enterprise risk management system and business continuity programs, which, as Deborah said, have paid off multiple times during COVID. Management was successful in delivering on our plans in 2019. We reported a record net income. Revenue grew by $50 million, largely as a result of increased non-aeronautical revenue and passenger traffic growth. Operating expenses increased over 2018 due to continued investments in the passenger experience. Interest cost before early retirement debt charge and hedge losses decreased slightly due to optimizing our financial strategies, including the use of our commercial paper program and being opportunistic in the long-term debt markets. We continue to shift the mix of revenue towards non-aeronautical sources so that we are less reliant on traditional aeronautical revenue. The growth in non-aeronautical revenue provides us greater flexibility to realize our vision. Our two-till rate-setting methodology charges aeronautical rates based on actual cost incurred. Looking at revenue, you can see that aeronautical revenues in 2019 have increased compared to 2018. This increase is due to continued increases in aviation activity. The total amount collected through airport improvement fees decreased in 2019 due to an increase in connecting passengers who pay a lower AIF. Non-aeronautical revenues increased by 10.6%. This increase is due to factors including the addition of new partnerships, online dynamic pricing to ensure parking offerings and volumes, and a new strategic agreement with one of our key retail partners, and additional digital advertising revenues. Stabilizing rates has been one of the key contributors to traffic growth at Pearson. This focus on the bottom line has enabled us to reduce or hold constant the rates we charge to air carriers for the past 14 years. In fact, posted air carrier rates are now 25% less compared to Toronto Pearson rates in 2006. The reduced rates that we initially put in place in 2013 have now been frozen for 8 years. This provides certainty to our airline partners, enables them to plan in the long run, and encourages development of route changes and options at Pearson. Cost containment. We continue to manage the operating costs with an eye to the bottom line. As shown on this graph, our operating costs are growing at a slower rate than our traffic growth. In 2019, we saw passenger traffic grow at a rate of 56% and costs grow at a rate of 43% since 2009. This has been achieved through technology innovations and more efficient use of our existing resources and facilities, while constantly focusing on the quality of our services. You will note that there has been a gradual increase in our operating expenses over the past few years as we reinvest our savings into improving airport operations, improve passenger experience and baggage processing, and managing passenger growth. This is a financial approach that enables Toronto Pearson to realize its vision. Our outstanding debt has declined from a high in 2011 of $7.3 billion to $6.4 billion. This represents a reduction of nearly $1 billion over 8 years. You will note that we are taking active steps to manage the organization's costs of debt through the use of our commercial paper program and opportunistically going to the bond market. As noted in red, we have invested $450 million in property acquisitions, which will allow for continued growth of the airport, its tenants and its partners, and future related developments. Our net interest expense was lower by $4 million in 2019 as compared to 2018. Reducing our interest expense provides us flexibility to invest in the airport to enhance our service offerings, improve the passenger experience, and manage our rates and charges. The commercial paper program was introduced in May 2017 as an alternative source to fund the maturity of medium-term notes at lower rates. Commercial paper also provides the benefit of hedging the negative impact of funding short-term reserve accounts. Rating agencies have rewarded the corporation's efforts to reduce debt. Standard & Poor's rating remains at A+. The Moody's rating is AA3. These ratings are supported by the reduction in debt and the lower net debt per passenger, which has declined from $248 in 2017 to $236 in 2019. These ratings benefit the organization by lowering borrowing costs and improving our access to new funding should it be needed. It is worth noting that both ratings were reaffirmed in March of this year, with Standard & Poor's changing the outlook to negative as a result of COVID-19, while Moody's held their outlook at stable. Aviation is an important enabler for the rest of our business, as with it, we gain the benefits of scale, enabling us to continue to expand our service offerings. Customer service improvements and improved passenger processing both encourage this growth. Timely and efficient capital expenditures must be made to accommodate the growth while we continue to monitor passenger service and processing activities. In 2019, we saw improved passenger processing experiences at CATSA and USCBP due to these investments made in those areas. Passenger traffic. As you can see, passenger traffic grew by 2% from 2019 to a record 50.5 million passengers in 2019. This was a big milestone for Pearson to surpass the 50 million passenger mark. In 2019, 1 more million passengers traveled through Pearson. Since 2010, we have added nearly 19 million annual passengers. Growth in 2019 was led by the international activity at a growth rate of 2.4%. Capital expenditures. 2019 saw continued capital spending to support growth and passenger flow. These near-term capital priorities are funded through the yearly cash flows generated, rather than financed through the issuance of debt. Investments in our real estate properties are financed through new debt. We continue to focus on several ongoing major investments through 2019, including non-passenger vehicle screening, Tier G upgrades, Tier 3 upgrades, and new NAR offerings. In 2019, 2 permanent and expanded NPSV facilities were built and activated. The South Super Gate facility was completed in December 2019. Pier G, we undertook an upgrade and expansion of the capacity of Pier G, including expanding narrow-body aircraft parking, expanding apron area, and improved facilities and retail offerings. This project was completed in 2019. T3, check-in and hold room upgrades. In this area, there was a need to upgrade systems and digital technology to deliver an enhanced passenger experience. Specifically, this meant upgrades to domestic and international east check-in for increased passenger flow, revitalization of certain gates, and revitalization of the international arrivals hall. With respect to our NAR business, as you can see, we had a number of new offerings for our passengers in terminal to enhance their travel experience. We brought the Kensington Market street food concept to Terminal 1 with restaurants from Trattoria San Cosme and Dirty Bird Chicken Waffles. There were a number of retail pop-ups that came to our terminals as shorter-term offerings for passengers. These included Joe Malone London, Wayne Gretzky Estates, and Armani Beauty Cinema. Our ground transportation unit also delivered on some enhancements to their offerings. For example, Find Your Car services, as well as enhanced guiding features launched in the summer of 2019 in the T1 parking garage. Looking a little deeper into non-aeronautical revenue, this chart shows the success we have been having with non-aeronautical revenue growth. In 2019, we continue to have solid growth in all non-aeronautical revenue segments, including an 11.2% increase in rental revenues to $148.2 million, and a 15.8% increase in concession revenues to $167 million. We also saw an increase in revenue in ground transportation and parking, up 6% to $203 million. Rental revenues have grown in part from our investments in commercial properties. Now, onto COVID-19. COVID-19 did not have an impact on the 2019 financial results, as it was primarily limited to parts of Asia during this period. On March 11th, 2020, COVID-19 was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. The GTAA has developed a comprehensive continuity and resiliency plan in response to COVID-19. The plan includes measures to ensure the health and safety of all passengers, partners, and employees. Facilities and operating costs have been right-sized as a result of the significant decline in passenger traffic in 2020. Management is working to address potential changes that might come into play, including regulatory requirements, passenger expectations, and processing changes. And management has worked with government to implement required changes to operations and to appeal for financial support for the business where possible. The ultimate and long-term impact of COVID-19 on our business and the aviation industry at large is unknown. It will depend on many factors, including the duration of the outbreak, government regulations and restrictions, and the length and severity of the economic recession. Impacts of COVID-19 will be felt in the near term and will be material, but the long-term financial sustainability of our organization remains strong and secure. Thank you, and stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, Ian. That concludes the formal portion of our meeting. With that, I'd open the floor to questions and comments from the public. And as I mentioned at the outset of the meeting, on your screen, you're going to see an icon of a person raising their hand. Please click on this box, click on this icon, and a box will come up allowing you to enter your question. We've already had some questions logged. First question is from Kevin for Doug Allingham, the chair of our board. In light of the significant impacts of COVID, what specifically will the board's priorities be, and how will they help the airport to recover? Doug, we'll give you a minute to go ahead.
Thank you, Hillary. A great question. Obviously, the health of our employees, travelers, and other visitors at Pearson is currently our primary consideration. Secondly, the board wants to ensure the ongoing financial stability of the organization to facilitate working obviously with all of our partners, a strong recovery and a return to sustainable, profitable growth. Before COVID hit, our two main priorities were innovation and sustainability, as I covered in my presentation. But despite the need to pivot the organization to respond to the issues at Pearson relating to COVID, we continue to focus on these priorities, and both of these continue to be considerations as we work to ensure the current and future health and safety of our employees, the travelers, and also our financial sustainability.
Thanks, Doug. Turning back to the queue, we have a question from C. Levesque. We heard from Air Canada yesterday that this is the darkest period in the history of aviation. This is for the CEO, Deborah Flint. Deborah, how would you characterize the impact of COVID on the GTAA?
Well, you know, indeed, there are words such as dire, as sad, the darkest time, black swan, black hole type event that's characterizing where we are, and I think every single one of those, quite frankly, is very fitting. You know, we may never have imagined this, but at GTAA and across the industry, we can say we have a proud history of actually preparing for the unthinkable. I have every confidence, actually, that we are agile, adaptable, innovative, and focused. And at our core is the care for people, which will give us, the GTAA, the capabilities that we need to emerge stronger. I also very strongly believe that just like those who recently invested $25 billion back into Boeing, that the aviation contributions, not just to the economy and the millions of jobs that are associated with the aviation industry, but aviation's contributions to mankind and the need for humans to connect to each other and across the planet, that this industry will thrive once again.
Deborah, thanks for that. We have a question for Ian Clark. Ian, you're being asked, how soon does the GTAA expect to return to 2019 revenue levels or passenger levels, it says?
This crisis is evolving, and due to the fact that it's also led to an economic recession, there is great uncertainty about when we'll get back. Our current guess is probably somewhere between 3 to 5 years. Past turnarounds have been shorter. They've been about 2.5 to 3.5 years. So this one could just be a little bit longer because it's almost 2 bad events in one.
Thanks, Ian. Adrian Pye is asking, given the reduced number of flights now and expected over the near and potentially longer term, will the GTAA reduce or eliminate nighttime flights? I live in Etobicoke and have been woken up by those in the past. Adrian, you know, we are a 24/7 operation, and we understand the impacts of that operation on our neighbors. We work very hard to communicate with local residents groups as well as local community members and elected officials about what the operation looks like and how you might be specifically impacted in your respective neighborhoods. Recently, we were the first airport in North America to launch a program called Insightful, which is a tool that you can find on our website, which provides you with specific and detailed information about the operations that are currently coming in and out of Pearson. What I would say is that in light of the impacts of COVID, the restricted hour flights are down significantly. They're down about 70%. You know, that said, there continue to be important and necessary flights that operate throughout the course of the 24-hour period. We're receiving medical supplies, there's increased online ordering. You know, we really see that cargo operation as essential to supporting the overall response by Canada to COVID. So that's why you continue to see those flights. Going to now turn back to the list of questions. Dan Jansen. Hi, Dan. Good afternoon. My name is Dan Jansen, General Chairperson of the Machinist Union District 140 and Toronto Pearson Airport Workers Council. I've been an active member of the airport community for 20 years. It's understood the airline industry will be especially hard hit and will have long-lasting effects. What measures will be put in place to ensure that workers will adequately be protected when they come back into the workplace after layoffs and furloughs? Will the GTAA ensure that all 400 employers are following the best practices of health regulators? I'm going to briefly respond to this question and then pass it over to my colleague Kath Hammond, who is responsible for the team that sits with Dan at that, with the Toronto Pearson Worker Health and Safety Forum. Dan, as you know, we value the relationship we have with the Toronto Pearson Airport Workers Council, and just most recently last week had an opportunity to sit down with members of the council together with Deborah and make those introductions and reaffirm our commitment to working with the Workers Council. We've seen it as a valuable relationship since 2012. Including the demographic survey that was undertaken last year, which produced some really interesting, compelling information about the desire of workers within the airport environment to continue to find career paths and opportunities. And now, even more importantly, for those workers, especially those who've been impacted by COVID, to find resources that can support them through this difficult period. And so we've committed to working with the Workers' Council to bring that information forward, to provide those resources, to bring community partners to bear, to give career building opportunities, job seeking opportunities to all those workers who've been impacted. Now let me turn it over to my colleague Kath Hammond, who can respond to some of the initiatives through the Health and Safety Forum.
Hi, my name is Kath Hammond. I'm the Vice President, Governance, Corporate Safety and Security. And thank you for your question and your kind words about the Toronto Pearson Worker Health and Safety Forum. Health and safety have always been core to the GTAA's values. And as you know, even in pre-COVID times, we have worked hard with groups, including Dan, you, to build a strong safety community across the entire airport, directly engaging in through two-way dialogue with workers and with employers. And in that dialogue, we identify issues and we work collectively towards their resolution. And so these channels were built pre-COVID, but now in COVID, they've proven themselves to be extremely valuable as we focus on rebuilding the business of the airport. And we know, as we do rebuild the public confidence in air travel, that worker health and safety at Toronto Pearson is a critical cornerstone for rebuilding that public confidence. And so it is no exaggeration to say that health and safety is at the very center of the GTA's restart planning process. And I think you heard it in Deborah's remarks. You heard examples, things like pioneering a COVID case log, things like piloting various protective measures and looking at those results, things like the plexiglass. And you will continue to hear and see these things in action as we move forward to rebuild our business.
Thanks, Kath. The next question is from Michael. I think it's Mike Corrado. Considering the fact that the industry previously experienced serious viruses and health risks such as SARS, sorry, I need my glasses. And considering the world has been openly speaking about a serious global pandemic affecting global citizens for over a decade, why, Michael's words, was Toronto Pearson unprepared when this COVID-19 outbreak hit? Where was the pandemic contingency plan? Also, how can you ensure that the traveling public and workers and Canadians were protected from harm? Will you ensure that an adequate stockpile of PPE and other measures are on hand to address future outbreaks? I'm going to turn this question to our CEO, Deborah Flint.
Okay. You know, how the world, frankly, responded to this unprecedented global pandemic, a pandemic beyond scale of any that had ever taken place, leaves plenty of opportunity, frankly, for there to be lessons learned and to develop best practices. And like many organizations and industries around the world, we ourselves at Pearson will absolutely do our lessons learned, and commit to, as we have done, always being a continual improvement organization. And we will improve as a result of that. But I'm also incredibly proud of the team, proud of the partners and our response. And indeed, to your point, it was built on a very current pandemic plan, one that had been not just updated, but had been reviewed by the World Health Organization and commended for it having some global best practices and standards. I think back to what seems like long ago, but we literally transformed the footprint and changed the operations of this massive and complex environment within a matter of hours sometimes and over the course of days. And I recognize, and the team does as well, that we'll need to continue transforming time and time again in the days and weeks ahead with significant health measures and operational practice changes, solutioning and testing. And we will be a leader, and we will play our part in what is a shared responsibility with public health and government as we continue to evolve, not just during this era where the pandemic will continue, or in the era when the pandemic is considered ended, but to be pandemic prepared as a world in the years ahead.
Thanks, Deborah. We have a question from Cyrus. Cyrus says, I'm a student in an aviation program. I have a question about the future of the aviation sector. With this downside and pandemic from COVID-19, aviation students have many concerns about their future. What's your recommendation for us? We're seeking to find a job in the aviation sector, but it seems like we'll have a difficult time doing so. Should we stay at school and pray for shiny days in the future? It's heartbreaking. Deborah, do you want to provide any
Absolutely.
Cyrus?
Sure. I'm a parent, so Cyrus, I can't help but say stay in school, of course, get the utmost in education, but plan your future on this industry. As said, while this is a difficult time for the industry, it is an incredible industry, one with so many opportunities. Whether you have a background and an interest in science or marketing or finance or in the skies, there are incredible number of opportunities. The infrastructure, caring of people, and the health of people now, of course, is an even bigger part of the industry on a forward basis. And so, indeed, every sector is challenged, and there's no doubt that the aviation, tourism, and travel industry, as it stands today, may be one of the slowest to recover, but it is an industry that will sustain, it will thrive once again, and the opportunities will be abound. And we look forward to seeing you at Pearson.
Turning back to the questions, Phil asks, will the new normal objective of minimizing traveler congestion at Toronto Pearson help advance the construction and operational timing of an airport in Pickering? Phil, if you'll recall, there was the release of the study by KPMG. Transport Canada released that just recently in March 2020, and it took a look at the demand within Southern Ontario, the capacity of the existing airports, and the expected demand, and what role that airport could play. I would assume that given the impacts of COVID-19 on the entire aviation sector, we might want to go back to Transport Canada and ask them to update their demand analysis, the scenario analysis, and what that means for all Southern Ontario airports. As you know, or you may not know, we work very closely with 11 other airports across Southern Ontario. to look at what the future demand for air travel in the region will be. And we've advocated together with the mayors and regional chairs of those regions, including Durham, Chair Henry and Mayor Ryan, to talk about what role airports, including airports on that Pickering land, could play. So, you know, at this point, given the impacts of COVID, we're thinking about all of our airport partners across Southern Ontario, but would encourage the federal government to update its demand analysis before any further considerations are given. Turning back to these questions, let me just scroll through them here. There's quite a few. We had a question about, yes, from Edward Rice, Chairman of Ontarians with Disabilities of Brunei Brith, Canada. I would like to address improvements regarding disability access at Toronto Pearson. Of the 50 million passengers who pass through Pearson every year, 20% have some form of physical disability. Can you comment on disability accessibility at Toronto Pearson and the work you're doing? So I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Scott Collier, who's responsible for terminal services, and his team has been actively engaged in this. And also commit to getting back to you, Edward, with some of your specific questions, including about family washrooms. Scott?
Thank you, Hillary, and good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Rice, outstanding question. Thank you very much. So first of all, what I'll say is I would love to invite you in at the right time, and your colleagues with the organization you represent, to join us on our accessibility agenda. Over the last couple of years, our organization has invested an enormous amount of time and money in terms of elevating our performance, in terms of addressing needs of all passengers, of all needs. And we recognize that in the past, probably haven't done nearly as good as we could have, but we've redoubled our efforts over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of accessibility for people of all different needs, whether it be those in wheelchairs, with epilepsy, autism, blindness, hearing, etc., and working in close consultation with the Canadian Transportation Agency. You know, I've noted some of your specific issues here. Very quickly on bathrooms, we're going through a massive redevelopment on our bathrooms to upgrade them to modern standards, new signage, etc., all the things you addressed. But, you know, most importantly, we'll follow up formally post this meeting to make sure we invite you in to be part of our journey to become the best airport for those with special needs, etc. So thank you for the question. Very appropriate.
Thanks, Scott, for answering that. We have time for one more question based on the time of the call of 2:57. Ryan is asking, how will the airport deal with potentially getting no government funding? Hopefully that's not the case, Ryan. I'm going to turn it over to Ian or Deborah, who have been actively engaging with the federal government, both individually on behalf of the GTAA and then additionally through the Canadian Airports Council.
So Ian Clark, CFO. Yes, we have been approaching and working hard with government to seek financial help for the industry. But most importantly, we're also helping ourselves. We can't depend on a government hand out or hand up. And so we've started to look at the future and new sources of revenue, including, as you heard, increasing our cargo business and looking at other ways to innovate to save dollars and cut back cost. As Deborah said, we reduced our operating footprint by 55%, and we continue to look at ways to adjust to our new normal. So we are doing everything possible, turning every stone to reduce cost, and then at the same time, not close our eyes to revenue opportunities so that we help ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're very appreciative of the fact that the government has been outreaching to us as an industry across the Canadian Airports Council, advocacy and our partnerships like with the Toronto Region Board of Trade or with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce reflect how important this industry is and the hurt that is taking place across the industry and the need for government support. So while it may come in different measures and in different ways, as we've already seen, and I expect that there will be more to come because it's really essential for this industry in order for its survival and to position it to once thrive again and create the great economic benefits that come to our neighborhoods and our regions and of course across the country.
Thanks, Deborah. The time is now 3 o'clock. If that brings our meeting to a close, I know that there were some additional questions in the queue. We will reply to those questions directly. So please, thank you for your patience as we work through this virtual town hall today in this new format, but we do intend to make sure we respond to all of these questions. You know, as you heard today, we're getting ready, we're committed to getting ready for a return to some form of normal and welcoming colleagues in person and seeing people head off to explore the world when we're told to, it's safe to do so, of course. I think I speak for all of us attending this meeting when I say we're very much looking forward to that day. This meeting was recorded and will be made available through our website in the next 24 hours. Thank you for your patience today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and please stay safe. Have a nice day.